Thrash metal.
Hello to all out there in YouTube land. My name is Thomas Metal 75, and this is your Massachusetts beer reviews. Today is Stout Sunday. Normal host of this show on the John Anile channel of YouTube is John Anile. He is unavailable, and so is Louisiana Beer Reviews, Jay Terrio. So I'm taking the reins on this one today for y'all. We are featuring Michael Kormaroff.
Good morning.
And Mr. Jonathan Owens, a.k.a. J.O., for some
Morning, guys.
stouts. Remember, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We like new faces here on Thomas Metal 75. All right, Michael Kormaroff, Brooklyn, New York. What are we drinking for stouts today?
Okay, this is what it looks like. It's a 11.2 ounce can. It's called Lion Stout. It's from Sri Lanka. It's an export stout, and Sri Lanka used to be called Ceylon. It's in Asia. It's an island country, I believe. And I've had this before, but it's always good to try it again. I guess I can show it to you in the glass.
Right. There you go.
Nice foamy head. And I will give further description when we come around again.
All right. Jonathan Owens, J.O., what are we drinking today?
New Holland. I found the Dragon's Milk, 11% ABV. This is the Raspberry Hibiscus. It is a bourbon barrel-aged stout with natural flavors. It's part of their series that they put out every Christmas. In that lineup this year is a maple oak and oatmeal cookie, which I got to drink the other night, which is outstanding, and the orange chocolate. But this one is due to popular demand. I'm looking forward to the Raspberry Hibiscus.
All right, people. That thing sounds good. I have a beer from the state of Maine. I believe J.O. has looked at this once or twice in his life. I got this Mast Landing Gunner's Daughter Milk Stout.
Oh, yeah. Amos loved that one.
Yeah, this one is only 5.5%, as it says on my screen. It is beautifully aromatic milk stout with bold flavors of peanut butter, coffee, and dark chocolate. However, they are very good about letting us know that the beer is peanut and nut free, and it does contain some lactose. Cool part of this one here from the brewery. If you go to the brewery, I was at a local Massachusetts store on Route 1 towards Boston, Massachusetts. The brewery, masslandingbrewing.com, says for a 4-pack of cans at their brewery, it is only $12.99. So what I think is a good beer, that's a good price for some tall boy cans. So I am going to crack that one open and get all up in that. And I'm going to open up our chat here quickly. We got Craig Swenson. Yo, what's up? Got John Anile checking us out. Thank you, sir. That looks like an awesome beer, J.O. Bam. We got Bourbon Knows It All. Hello, everybody. Another cheers. Another hello. And how y'all doing? And John. Bam.
That was me.
There we go. We're caught up with the chat. But if Michael Kormaroff wants to talk about some Lion Stout, go right ahead, sir.
I'll give you a little background about it. It has British, Czech, and Danish malts in it, and Styrian hops and English yeast strain. So interesting combination of ingredients in it. And again, I'm checking it out with you notice the head has declined from when I showed it before. It's down to like a very thin beige head. The beer is pitch black. I guess it's brown to black. It's not pitch black, but it's very dark. Let me get a nose on it. You get the roasted malts. You very sweet. There's some sweetness in the nose. Let me take a sip.
Cheers.
Very silky smooth on the taste, which is interesting in a stout. Getting the dark malts in it as well. There's kind of a mild bitterness in this as well, but it's not taking over. It's just a accompanying factor. Very easy drinking for 8.8%. I would consider this a dangerous beer because it's drinking more like a session beer
Sure.
8.8%. Very nice. Like I say, smooth. And I would recommend this beer.
Nice. And again, people, this is Michael Komarov trying the Lion Stout, 8.8% ABV.
If you can find this, you should pick it up. It comes in both cans and bottles.
Nice. Excellent. We'll come back to Michael Komarov for that rating. Again, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Jonathan Owens got a new channel. Look for that one in the near future. And while we're on the subject, Jonathan Owens. Yeah, he's got an interesting Dragon's Milk Stout to look at this afternoon.
As of right now, all you who know, just one video up on there. It was an unboxing. I wasn't able to drink it, but I got my hands on one of the 6 millionth barrels. It's a very, very bad format, and I apologize, but some of the better stuff's coming. All right. Okay, so the hibiscus stout here. When I did the oatmeal stout cookie, the foam head was perfection smooth all the way across. It was like an angel food cake density, so I'm hoping this one carries over. And am I pop down here?
Yeah.
Got the cap. So, all right. Immediately, I'm getting a large whoa. First thing was this beer smell, classic like lager, and then it just opened right up to like this deep, rich roasted cocoa. But now a floral note is coming through, and it is incredibly. I mean, it's like when you're buying gourmet chocolates like Esther Price or Godiva. The first thing that you notice is like there's numerous flavors and there's like a floral note under there, because one of them is going to be rose flavored. That is very much what it's like. The head is definitely not a disappointment. Look at that. That is near perfection right there. You cannot. Here, I'm going to tilt this so you can see it. Look at the top of that.
Wow.
Perfectly smooth all the way around. And there we go. All right. Definitely floral, almost candy sweet from the hibiscus. The color is a little bit more rosy than the other. It doesn't translate very well over to on the camera. But when I did the oatmeal stout, it was black as night. This one kind of has a tinge of red to it. Doesn't really transfer over. But okay. Okay. Very, very sweet. That hibiscus is the first thing you get. Almost like a syrupy candy syrup sweetness of hibiscus infused. Then that rich roasted black malt kicks in. I hate to say it, I love it, but it's going to be hard for me to get through this bottle and this glass because this is it's just so sweet and thick. It's still outstanding. Pour this in a 4-ounce snifter with 2 friends. And I think this would be a killer flight beer sample, and just for you to taste and go, oh, God, that is amazing for Christmas.
All right.
And that foam also, as you can see, has leveled out to almost, again, a perfection. All right, I'll shut up.
Is the alcohol masked in it? Can you taste the 11%?
It's mostly syrup. Then there's almost a lager flavor. Then I get that roasty malt of like a dark, rich dragon milk beer. Then I get the barrel. The alcohol is a bitter, subtle background underneath the roasted malts. It's there, but you have to look for it. This is almost like something that you could give to a lady friend who only likes ciders and trick them into drinking something with a higher ABV and a stronger flavor. I know my wife would probably enjoy a sip or 2 of it because she doesn't do stout beers at all. But I think she would enjoy a sip or 2 of this one.
Wow.
All right.
Gotcha. Very excellent sounding beer right there from John.
Good.
All right. Let's go to Thomas Metal 75. What's he drinking today? He's drinking Mass Landing Brewing Company, and this is their Gunner's Daughter Milk Stout. Again, 5.5% alcohol by volume. Here's what the can looks like. Very pretty looking can. It's got a little dent, but it's all right. 10/29, 2019, so not old. Poured it all the way to the top. It had a bigger head on it, but now it's a nice fine rim on the glass. And there's a lot of ruby red tinges to it. Definitely not pitch black, but it is pretty dark there. Wow. Whoa. Woo. There is so much like peanut butter sweetness in this beer. It's crazy. It also has a lot of the dark chocolate they talk about. A very lactic milk sweetness underneath everything. A lot of like brown bready notes to it. A lot of just like chocolate syrupy, dark chocolate syrupy kind of notes to it. It smells like a really nice sweet milk stout. It smells like a dessert in a glass, but at 5.5%, I'm not getting a drop of the alcohol in the scent in the nose at all, which, I mean, I wouldn't expect that, but I've not had this one, but I've seen a lot of people talk about how great the beer is. So let's try some. Cheers, everybody. Ooh, damn. Oh, there you go. Wow, that's pretty nice. The coffee, there's a little bit of like a roastiness from some coffee in the nose, but definitely more coffee for me, like a medium roasted kind of a coffee feel. It's coming out in the taste. The finish is a little bit on the roasty, kind of almost smoky side, but it's more roasty than anything. Definitely a lot of the peanut butter and some dark chocolatey, almost like dark chocolate syrupy kind of notes are coming out of this one. And it's probably straight up medium bodied. It is well carbonated. I'd say it's pretty crisp, and it is semi dry, but it's pretty dry for this style of beer. I would say it is drinking very easy going. I think if you want to bring a beer to a holiday party, to Christmas, you want to have a beer with some desserts, you want to pair it with, I don't know, a cigar even maybe, this will be a good beer to have with those activities and those kind of foods. Maybe darker meats, maybe a good steak or burger or something like that. That'll go well with this one. So if you like dessert beers that aren't cut your head off sweet, this is really a good one to try. So I'll be sipping and trying and getting back to you all with some ratings. Yeah, Thomas Metal out for now. What's going on in Brooklyn, New York in the Lion Stout?
As it's sitting, the roastiness is coming a little bit stronger and a little bit more in the taste of that bitter kind of feel. But again, the bitterness is not overdone. So I'm enjoying the combination. It's very well balanced. And as far as other export stouts I've had export stouts from Guinness and a few others. This one's very good. I mean, maybe it's not the best one I've ever had, but it's very good. And I'm really enjoying it.
Nice.
Trying to think what else. Like I say, the alcohol being as well masked as it is, you have to be careful with this one because it does go down very easy. And the mouthfeel is really medium. Very nice. I'm enjoying it. I will give you my number as 94.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
That's a good one.
I'm giving this an A bordering on world class.
And what is the price point that you paid for that single can?
I paid $61 and 11.2 ounce. But I was telling you earlier that the bottles in the co-op are over $2.
Nice.
I guess the distinction I make now is I consider cans to be as good in their taste as bottles. So if it's the same or similar price, I'm willing to buy cans. They're easier, you know, as far as chilling them down. And if you're going away with them, it's easier. They're more, you know, they're not as heavy as bottles. But this case, the price difference, I just almost don't understand it. But they have both in my food co-op.
Excellent. That sounds like a winner right there. Nice. All right. Let's see where Jo is at with the raspberry hibiscus.
The foam has settled down to where it looks like a nitro. It's actually really, hang on, I got a cat trying to climb in my lap with some very sharp claws. And but it is more of a dessert beer. It is definitely very, very sweet. It's kind of like to me, like drinking a cup of coffee while eating a raspberry cobbler. And because it's very sweet. The hibiscus definitely adds a layer of sweetness to it. It is fantastic. Would I buy this again? Yes and yes. Would I keep it on my shelf? Yes. What's my only drawback? It is so thick, so sweet. I am going to have a hard time getting through this in one sitting. Definitely share with a friend. I love it. As with Dragon's Milk, it never disappoints. And it's about $7 a bottle. It's, also unfortunately limited release, so they can demand that price.
Sure.
All right.
Nice. Very good.
I'm going to say fuck it. 95.
95. Write it down.
That
Mike.
is a goddamn good beer. Excuse my language, guys. That is a good beer. Nor in the past I would have been able to censor that out, but hey.
Good. All right. That's what Stout Sunday is all about. Hopefully we're doing the show justice, Mr. John Anile. 95 right there. Again, don't forget to rate, comment, subscribe to everybody that's got a YouTube channel here, Thomas Metal 75. You know what to do. Thank you, 7 people watching out there. We got.
Yeah, I just read John Anile here. He gave it a 98. That is very fair.
But it was awesome. It was very sweet though. But that's how I prefer.
Yeah, he does like his stout sweet. He likes them. He's like me. He likes them thick. He likes them sweet. He likes them rich and savory. Oh, yeah. And I respect his there.
We got Ronald Sutton. What's up, TM75? What's up, Ronald? Just drinking some stouts. Blake TV. Cheers. Cheers to you, Blake TV. And yes, what's going on? John Anile. Bam. All right, we got a beer to discuss here. There's my little thing. Then we got that Mass Landing Gunner's Daughter. I wrote Daughter Milk Stout. No. Gunner's Daughter Milk Stout. I apologize for that one. 5.5%. I would say the leading flavor on this beer is definitely all of that peanut buttery goodness. So you have to be a giant fan of peanut butter to have a good satisfaction out of said beer. And I am a pretty big fan of the Reese's cups. I love those, and I do like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But this reminds me of a dark roasted version, or with dark chocolate, of a Reese's peanut butter cup. So if you like that, if that sounds like your game, you want dark chocolate instead of milk chocolate in your peanut butter cup, this beer is for you. It is light for what it is. It is refreshing for what it is. It is easy going for damn sure. But it is not too sweet, but it is going in a almost a too sweet direction. Probably not as bad as Dragon's Milk, but the sweetness is the only thing that I wish was diminished a little bit. So great beer, yes. I'm thinking a 91. So write that down, Michael Coleman. We got 91 out of 100. Just a little bit less sweetness, I think, could get even higher ratings. But if you're in New England or somebody sends you this beer and you've never had beers with peanut butter, or you've never had a milk stout, or let's just say in general, you're kind of a new and upcoming beer drinker, I think this one would be good. I think this is a good starter craft beer for people. It's flavors that people recognize that aren't just complex beer notes. So, but it is a very full flavored beer. So this one is a 91 from me. Yeah, why not? Yeah. Very approachable stuff. What would you say about the Lion's Stout? Who would you recommend Lion's Stout to there, Michael?
It may be a little bit too advanced for somebody who's just starting out, because they may find the bitterness and a little bit not perfect. But for somebody who's been drinking some Guinness and some of the other stouts before, this certainly would be a fine one to try. And like I say, 8.8% is pretty, higher alcohol. So if you want a little bit more in your stout, it's not a simple, easy going stout, but it's quite enjoyable, and I would recommend it.
Nice.
All right. Everybody's chatting away on the channel, and the best chat of all, we got y'all doing a fine job. Wish I could be there. Thank you, John Anile.
Wish you could be here too, buddy.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Cheers to us in the panel. Bam. So let's go back a little bit to J.O. And yes, he's got the Dragon's Milk Raspberry Hibiscus. Same question to you. Who would you recommend that particular beer towards?
Anybody who's an adventurous beer drinker, the craft beer drinker. I know this is not craft beer, but by goodness gracious, it tastes like it.
Yeah.
I would also throw down to say anybody who not just adventuresome, somebody who wants to try a flight, the dessert beer drinker, the stout drinker. Let's see here. I would also just recommend it for the beer drinker because this is one of them that I believe everybody should try because Dragon's Milk has made a name for itself as, in my opinion, one of the premium beers. It's not as well known as a lot of them, but you can find it in just about every grocery store out there in its little 4-pack, whether it is their dark stout, their coffee stout, or just their basic Dragon's Milk. New Holland never disappoints me, and by goodness gracious, it's a seasonal release. I think that this is one that everybody should check out. Whether or not it's any of the other lineup, which I don't have the oat milk cookie anymore because I drank that one. But hey. And for those out there, the oat milk cookie, I'd give it 96. It was not near as sweet as this, but it was delicious. So any beer drinker, dessert drinker, or just anybody with a sweet tooth.
All right.
Besides the fact that it's a stout and 11%, you're going to get where you want to be.
Nice. We got, let's see here. John Anile says he wish he could be there. What does Ronald Sutton say? Wish you were here, Pink Floyd. All right, Ronald Sutton. Yeah, man. So
I've been introducing the old school rock, heavy metal to my son. He loves AC/DC and Pink Floyd. He loves those guys.
We're going. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He's 10. Anything when they start slaying those strings, he's like, yeah, that's music.
Right on. Okay, Michael Komarov, you do lots of beer tastings throughout the year on the first Thursday of every month, and you've also done a lot of stout competition throwdowns with the people. How is the Dragon's Milk stuff in general? How do they usually rate? What's your experience with those?
They usually rate really high. It seems like we've only really had the basic Dragon's Milk in the ones we've done, but I'm going to have my eyes out for these different variants because they sound very interesting, and I'd like to try them for sure. The last one that we had, which was just a couple of weeks ago, we actually had more than half of what we tried were Imperial Stouts. We did 11 beers and 6 were Imperial Stouts.
Ow, you got to be careful with that.
So, no, you do. There are a lot of people, which, when you have 9 or 10 people, it spreads out the volume. But the ABVs were very high. And the biggest problem I think we were getting pretty full because most of the beers have a certain amount just because they're those higher alcohol and they're stouts, they're filling. So as we kept drinking, I tried the ones that I was introducing to vary the styles and put in lighter beers in between to kind of break it up. But when you're doing more, there were a couple where they were too straight, and then you just have to just watch it. But for the most part, these Imperial Stouts seem to be really good beers, especially to have in the late fall and the winter seasons.
So do you think that when you do those beer tastings that you guys do in that Brooklyn, New York area, that when you go from those Imperial Stouts to the lighter beers, do you think that it's hard to maybe assess the lighter ABVs and the lighter bodied beers going from an Imperial Stout to that lighter style beer?
You would think that. It's funny though. Most of the people who are involved in my groups are at least sophisticated enough that they have a couple of sips of water. They're able to clear their mouth out. And I guess at the latter stages, when you get down to number 9, 10, and 11, it gets a little bit harder because the alcohol starts to affect you a little bit more. Yeah. But you do your best to kind of filter it out where you're when you do go to the lighter styles, be it a lager, be it a pilsner, be it an IPA, the changeover in the beer doesn't affect you enough where you can't get back into a good stout to follow it up again. The stouts for sure have an advantage in the scoring system because the way they are, it seems to pique people's interest in drinking. That's my opinion. And they
I would almost think, for me personally, I mean, you have to look at Jo would know all about this, so chime in a minute. But for me, it can be about ABV, it can be about the body of the beer, but I do put those things into consideration. But if I can, and if I do know, or if I have an idea, if there are some pale ales and IPAs and stuff of that nature, or even something like, say, a Bigfoot barley wine where it's an American style, so it's going to have a little bit more hoppiness to it. I almost try to think about putting the less bitter things, waiting until the end on those things, just because that giant bitter kick to the beer might disrupt your judgment of the other flavors of beers.
Tasting beers is definitely hard. Bourbon, you start with the lower ABV and you work up.
Mm-hmm.
Beer, you have to factor in, like this one has hibiscus and it's a high ABV. So there is sweet, which can destroy your palate because you go from sweet to dry, you're wrecked. And if you go high ABV, then that can also wreck it. So it is literally, you might have to fluctuate. So like this one would definitely be on the last because it is just too sweet. And if I were to put like just a basic Guinness in front of this one, it would be a nice lead up. But from the way I would work this is I would start from a lager, then maybe do a bitter IPA because the IPA is a hop bitter. It's not a roasted bitter. It's another style of bitter. And so there's a lot of interesting study on this, but you would go to that because the tannins will wash out more from the hops rather than the roasting malted bitterness of a stout. So the stouts are definitely last. If you're doing a sour, you want to do those before you start doing the stouts. And it's weird, it's unique, but in the end, everybody's palate is different. And I just remember as I do it, it was just kind of this pattern of how I personally work it. I'm sure somebody has written a thesis on it. But it's a lot of fun just tasting beers, and I love it. And I have it's not an official announcement, but for all of those who have been following my plight with my former employer, I'm waiting on the final bit of the paperwork. But when I do get that paperwork, it will become official. But it can still fall through. I am going to be one of the head mixologists at a new 5-star hotel opening up here in Cincinnati.
Nice.
So actually, it was the craziest interview I've ever had in my life. It was a 2-hour banquet. They invited me to a banquet with all of the GMs and people of this new hotel from the Marriott. And it's called not the Antique Collection. Yeah, it's called the Antique Scribe. And it's this new one just opening up in the Lytle Park here in the Cincinnati area. And again, it can fall through, but they have had me fill out everything. Just the last stuff is just like the last paperwork where they can say, okay, there's one discrepancy. But other than that, I don't see why I would fail it.
Well, good luck with that, John.
That is awesome.
So
Jo is the man.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but it's going to be an incredible position. Incredible benefits, but honestly, I'm just looking forward to working in a 5-star environment, being able to experience cocktails and higher end bourbons again. And I loved it at the Party Source. This is going to be a lot more black tie, and I might get people are a little more snooty, but it's and it's not going to be as educational as it was, but I will still get the educational aspect. But it's still something. It's going to look incredibly good on the resume, and it's going to pay well.
Sounds great.
That sounds cool. I would go to that place.
Going further on the comparison when you do tastings, it's not new anymore. It's been a couple of years, maybe 3 or 4 years. These New England IPAs,
Oh yeah,
which give you generally less bitterness, seem to be good in between stouts because they're not
so buttery.
Right, and they're not as dramatically bitter. I mean, some have some bitterness, but it's usually mild. So they really are good counterbalances. But you are right, John, that when you do some of the stouts early, it takes you a while before your taste buds recover.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, those New England IPAs, it's such a broad definition of what they are. And so a lot of the hardcore bourbon drinkers start really getting upset because they're like, anybody can tack a name onto it and call it a New England. But to me, a true New England IPA should be hazy, buttery, and a tannin fill that just coats your palate with the bitterness that is disguised by the sweet and butteriness of the malts.
Right, I agree. And some do it well, some not as much.
Yeah, if you don't have, if you have none of that mouthfeel that comes with these styles of beers, I think no matter how juicy the thing actually tastes, if you don't have that right mouthfeel, you did it wrong, if you ask me on that one. It's not, I mean, milkshakes and smoothies are words that these styles of beers in the neck of the woods that I live in get played around with and toyed around with. But I think that's because when these styles came out, that's what people thought when they drank them. So why not make them taste like a fruit smoothie and a milkshake? And now you're starting to see that that's its own style, milkshake IPA. I think that's going a little too far, but you can go as crazy as coffee smooth as you want with this style.
You can really start playing around with those names, but in the end, just name them what they are, in my opinion. I've seen fruit smoothies, I've seen fruit milkshakes, and there's the whole division of not just sour, there's a division of tart. And I understand that they're creating subdivisions in it. I can see why. But okay, you want to say something, Michael?
I was going to say, do you think now we've actually gotten away from some of the hop stupids and the resins and the ones I'm talking about, John?
Yeah.
100 IBUs. That
nearly put me off beer. I like an IPA, but whenever I would go into a craft shop, it was literally all they made was one beer. They just changed the hops. Or I described it as a hop waggling competition. They pull out a bigger hop. The guy pulls out a bigger hop. Mine's bigger than yours. No, mine's bigger. You can only make it so big and bitter. So, but now we're seeing the resurgence of sours and tarts and, the New England IPA. And God, there was a new brand. I can't, because I'm not around Amos, I can't think of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's almost like the IPA drinker now can go more middle ground, and they're not forced to say, hey, mine is more bitter than yours. It's not only bitterness, it's a combination.
I'm more bitter.
No, it's not. It's a macho thing before, and now it's kind of settling out.
Well, it used to be that everybody wanted the most extreme beer drinking experience. Well, I got this let's see here. What was J.O. drinking? Oh, I got this Dragon's Milk Raspberry Biscuits. It's 11%. It's a pretty big beer, but I want bigger and bolder. And like, is that really what you need? Is it really?
What was it? Somebody released a 24 ABV beer. I don't even remember its name. I know there's an 18 and a 16. But when you start getting that high, you're just making a wine. You're leaving the barley element in there. So, yes, it's a barley wine, but really?
Yeah, they got, I don't know who makes it. There's a company, Beermeister. They can make is that Belgium or England or Scotland or something? They make a beer called Snake Venom. It's 65% alcohol by volume. That is just nuts. And I think it comes with a cork, with a little like rubber cork stopper.
You pop up to Ronald Sutton's comment there. That's awesome.
Bam, look at that, people. He's going to butcher a deer. If anybody wants to join him, he's going to have 30 of hams.
Reach out to my former co-partner Amos. Amos is a hams fan. You know.
Oh yeah.
I like me hams.
Butchering deer anytime soon in Brooklyn, New York. No.
It wasn't my brother. We lived way out in the back country. I mean, literally 40 miles to the nearest grocery store, 15 to the nearest gas station. We go into downtown Birmingham. He hits a deer.
A deer beer.
Downtown Birmingham.
Wow.
Yes.
Holy crap. All right. I know there are places, maybe in like Western Massachusetts, probably, I would assume Vermont, in Maine, in New Hampshire, where the local police departments will have like a news bulletin board. And then they'll say if somebody hit a deer and the deer was picked up by the local police, and if you want to pick it up, they'll just give it to you for free. Like,
wow. Yeah, I've heard of that.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the other area I grew up in Texas was, there were a lot of dead snakes on the road. I'm not picking those up.
Saying you'd rather have a better beer, not a bitter beer, which is an interesting comment.
I forget who was doing the commercials back in the day, but it could have been the 90s where there's an old man that walks.
Oh, the bitter beer face?
And he just goes.
Yeah. He could like pretty much swallow his entire face and squish it out. I remember that.
And he face. I think that was more of a commercial garnered towards the macros, the simpler lagers than
oh man, yeah.
Just drinking.
Gentlemen, I hate to, but I got to go meet my wife. This was
happy you joined us.
Merry Christmas to you all. And to all a good night.
Enjoy.
We'll see you.
See you soon.
Take care.
Cheers. All right. I was just going to talk about or ask you or listen to John Anile quickly. Michael and I have examined some really high ABV beers from Evil Twin. They are so well made that the barley malt character isn't lost and the ABV is masked exceptionally well. You can speak onto that way more than I can because I don't buy enough of their beers. But
both John and I feel that Evil Twin is one of the master stout brewers, and the different combinations that they've come up with that we've tried have been amazing. And they're all, the top end stuff is all over 11.5%. And they had that one pizza beer that was, I think, 17.1. So when you start getting up into those levels and you can still even mask the alcohol to somewhat, even though you can tell with any of their beers that there is higher alcohol in them, you can't really guess exactly how much, which, and they're very well made beers and they're very well balanced beers for the most part. The only problem I guess I have sometimes is there is some similarity, which means they probably use some similar base beers to make the ones they have, but still when they added things into it, it does change the beer itself. So it's not like it's completely that way. But we do like Twin a lot.
John says that not many breweries can do the high ABV beers that well, but Evil Twin is awesome.
Eric, you've had some Evil Twin beers.
Yeah, not as many as you folks have had, but we do get them pretty readily available here in New England, in my neck of the woods, southeastern Mass. They're the contract stuff by I almost said Evil Twin again. Two Roads. Right?
Two Roads in Stratford, Connecticut, I think is where most of them are based.
So they're an actual brewery or actual brand from, is that Denmark?
Yes, that's where they're both the Jeppy, who's the Evil Twin, and his brother, I don't know his name, from who is, I'm trying to, I lose my chain of thought, but his brother has enterprises in the United States now, and I think they do make some of their beers in Denmark as well.
Okay.
But they're extremely good.
Twin has a craft brewery in New York City these days.
Yes, as a matter of fact, it's a brew pub.
Ridgewood, New York.
In Ridgewood, in Queens, and I've never gone. I guess I have to go in order to just see what it's like to have some of their products on tap, which I've never had. Never had an Evil Twin beer on tap. And I'd like to try one of those, and they probably would have a really good selection of their beers. I do have to go, I guess. Maybe I can get a couple of my regular people who do beer tastings with me to go.
Share the screen. Whoa, hello. There it is. Evil Twin, New York City.
That's from their brew pub.
And they got all these fine draft beers. Look at all of that option. You can't go. You gotta find something you like, even if you're a Pilsner fan. They got
probably within
lagers.
10 miles of my house too.
Nice.
I live in Brooklyn, Queens, borders Brooklyn, and 10 miles or so. And
oh, there's a good sounding name of a beer. How cute is this? A pair of rats chasing each other on the subway tracks. That's the name of a beer, folks.
Sounds great.
Holy crap. They got long names of beers. When I travel outside New York, it's literally impossible to walk as slow as everyone else does. If you didn't know that was a double IPA, well, now you do. Wow. Damn.
I have to make
marshmallow. I have 30.5 stout.
To try some of their beers, and I'm looking
for home. Any stouts? No stout yet.
They seem to have more IPAs that they're working on now. It seemed from what I was looking at.
Yeah, IPAs are still. I know this is. Stop sharing that. I know this is Stout Sunday, but IPAs and those New England stuff is never going away. I don't think it's going away. Well, maybe not never, but anytime soon, I doubt it.
Jeremy is echoing about Evil Twin.
He says they make some great stuff. Joe Biden's dentures. Oh, wow. That's a name. Anyone tried the milk stout from Guinness, the new one called Over the Moon?
I have not yet. I've heard of it, though.
Could be a Stout Sunday beer next time. Who knows?
Comes out of their new Baltimore facility.
Yes, they're what do they call it? The Brewers Project.
Right. That's the first
on tap. Oh my!
I believe that's the first thing they've ever done outside Ireland. I don't think they've had any other brewery.
Keystone was the one that had the No Bitter Face campaign. Craig Swenson. Maybe it was. I just remember the guy in the back in the video in the commercials going.
Right, because trying to show the difference in the bitterness in beer, and that's it. But that was more of a macro level kind of thing.
Yes.
It's still that crosses craft. That crosses craft too.
Yeah, you see in all of the you're seeing the fact over the last number of years, a good solid number of years, that even if they're not specifically brewing those craftier style of beers. The major companies in the United States, big brewers are buying up these craftier beers because they realize they need to have some amount of foothold in that industry. They just can't not just see New England IPAs having this success or having stuff like we're drinking, having all this major success and them not having any part in that, right?
Well, the more I think about it, the InBev thing and the other major companies that are buying up the craft beer companies, it probably is all good because they do get more distribution that way. Their beers get out and more people get to try it. And you're still going to get new breweries starting up because they want to get a percentage of the market and get involved in it. So I think it's all good for craft beer in the long run. You just hope that, they don't try to stifle the competition on the shelf. You want to have in the store the ability to try everything and not force these smaller companies out of
business, or buying these companies or having partnerships with these companies and the new owners screwing around with recipes and stuff, because then that's just gonna mess with the people that used to buy their beer, and now they're losing that foothold in their market.
Well, you don't want them. They shouldn't be screwing around with a good thing. If beer was accepted by a large amount of the population, people who are buying it, why would you mess with the recipe? Get that same beer out, and as long as it's selling, keep selling it. Don't change up. That's how.
So, again, I wrote this down wrong. It's a Gunner's Daughter milk stout. That's what I'm drinking. I'm noticing because we're into almost 45 minutes here, 44 minutes. And the beer is obviously doing a little bit of warming at this point. I'm noticing a little bit more, for me, of a balance between malts, chocolate, peanut butter, and just the generalized sweetness to everything. I'm noticing that it's still sweet, but I'm noticing that the malts and the sweetness are kind of leveling out where they're not doing one thing over the other. I think they're a nice balance when the beer Yeah, I think they're a nice balance when the beer comes to that room temperature. Maybe a little bit less of a straight up peanut butter initially, and more of the darker chocolatey notes coming out initially. So I think when it's a little warmer, you're definitely getting more of like the stout, pronounced, darker roast malt out of it, and more coffee than just when it's cold. It's straight up peanut butter, like milk chocolate peanut butter Reese's in your face.
Right.
That's kind of interesting on that. What does the dragon's milk do as it warms? How's that going down?
It's funny now. I have the Lions, but I've had the Dragon's milk before.
Right, lion, dragon. Oh my.
Yeah, they're similar things. Whatever, different countries, but whatever. Like I say, the bitterness seemed to come out a little bit more at the end of the. I have, by the way, completed it, but
very good.
By the end, it was a little bit more bitter as it started, getting warmer. But overall, it was pretty well balanced from the beginning, and a little more bitter, and maybe the malt was a little bit more pronounced as it warmed a little bit as well. Yeah. So it's a little bit maltier in the roasted malt kind of area where you get a little bit. But it's funny, the roasted malts, I didn't really get any coffee per se. It was more of just like straight roasted malts. And maybe a little bit of chocolate, but it was mostly roasted malt throughout the whole beer. And I would say something like this, and I don't recommend it for a straight novice. It shouldn't be the first stout you pick up, but certainly after you've had a Guinness, this would be a good backup beer to try if you want to get into the export stout and you feel you can handle almost 9%.
Yeah, stouts were one of the styles, like a milk stout. Guinness, certainly. And then I tried the Young's Double Chocolate Stout. And I've had some Hefeweizens and some wheat beers in between that time after turning 21. But literally, I remember drinking the Young's Double Chocolate Stout, going, okay, beer can actually have some different things and flavors going on. All right, I get this now. I'm into it. So depending on what it is, maybe it was that the Young's Double Chocolate Stout kind of had flavors from other places that I was used to, like chocolate milk, chocolate, coffee. Those are kind of things that I like, and I know I like it. So the beer had things I like. Like, okay, that's a perfect way to get into it. You can watch all these reviews. You can read reviews. You can go to different breweries. You never know what you're going to find and what you're going to end up liking. But, I think it was for me that I could relate it to things that I've had that weren't just beer related. And it kind of went, light bulb, okay, I like this. All right.
I think I went through a phase where I was drinking a lot of the Samuel Smith beers, which were another English style, which is maybe similar, but they had a good chocolate stout that I liked, and it was lower ABV. Those were only about 5%, but there was something really, even though they were stouts, they weren't heavy. They were kind of, lighter, a little bit lighter stouts than even Guinness, Guinness, I think, was even lower alcohol. I think Guinness was 4.4 on their standard one you have, but it just seemed like it was more bitter than the Samuel Smith. But stouts really have a long range if you look at all the ones that are now available in the market. You can get these imperial ones that are, 17, 18%, and then all the way down to session beers that are 4 and 5%. So it's a big, wide range for sure.
Absolutely.
I was going to, Eric, I don't know if you remember. Do you remember last year in December, I went to this whole Stout Fest event where all we had?
I remember that.
It happened last night, and I did not attend because it was in the suburbs. The one last year was where I could take a subway to it, so I was able to go. This one was in the suburbs, and I didn't feel in a position where I was going to Uber it both ways, which would have been $100. And it's not like I'm cheap, but it's that I didn't want to Uber it. You could take the Long Island Railroad, but that involves the subway to the railroad and people giving you a ride to the station, and everybody at the Stout Fest, they're not driving. So, it's like it becomes very complicated. So as much as my friend who wanted me to come, it wasn't practical for me. There were people who went from Brooklyn, though. So it's not like people aren't willing to do it, but they're much younger than me and much more willing to, I guess, do it. I'd like to find out from my friend how it went, how it compared to last year and whatever, because it was an amazing event. I still have a couple of the beers that I got in my refrigerator, including a CBS from 2018, which I will have to drink at some point. And so I'd like to find out more about how that went down. I'm sure it was fun and whatever.
What came out as the top stout last year?
Well, I think it was one called Bible Belt. It was an Evil Twin collaboration with Prairie.
Evil Twin, people.
Right. And it was really good. And again, it was in the higher echelons. It was like almost 15% alcohol. And the stouts, again, it was a stout fest. So it's all stouts, but very little in anything of a session stout. They're almost all imperial stouts, almost everything that was brought. And I've said this before, it became a regional thing where they seemed to really, the people bringing the beers, it was all stuff which was centric to the New York metropolitan area. And I'm not saying there was none. Old Rasputin was there. Yeah. So there were some other national brands, but it was almost like the people who were there were like poo-pooing the national brands, and they were pushing the local stuff, Other Half and Two Roads, which makes the Evil Twin. And so it was kind of like New York centric, which is fine. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff you can get here, but there was some, things that were, that did very well. And I guess when you look at the whole picture of stouts as a whole, the craft beer industry has been pushing them a lot. Almost every portfolio has at least a couple of stouts in it. But, it's a style which more complicated, more complex maybe, but one that can be enjoyed. And maybe that's how Stout Sunday came about, because we wanted to get more into tasting them and enjoying them on Sunday morning.
Right. Yeah, I'm just thinking that maybe purposely they're trying to not give the ratings and the nods to who's got the biggest foothold in the stout game, and that purposely we want to give all the props to the smaller companies, which I don't mind doing that. But if I'm going to objectively review beer, I better just be open-minded to just about anything that comes across my palate, right?
You should try everything you can, give it as fair a judgment as you can. And in the long run, it's going to all, as they say, come out in the wash, so to speak, of beer. And it's going to, everything averages out the way I look at it. So try everything, give it a fair chance. And even macros, give them a fair chance.
Why not?
But look, if you look at it, some of those macros are okay. They're not all. I never say macros are bad. All I say is I don't want to spend my time drinking them.
Sure.
I'm going to be 69 in a couple of months, and I'd rather drink craft beer. That's a personal statement. Whatever. You want to buy a 30-pack of hams, knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Cool.
And make a great milk stout. Agreed. That one is delicious. You can get milk stout and a nitro version of the bottle.
When I went to college, Hams was one of the beers in my market. Hams and Grain Belt were both the local beers in the Minneapolis-St. Paul area. Went to college, so
we had a comment. Speaking of that, since Ronald Sutton is gutting out that deer and drinking some hams, he also said earlier he wishes some brewery would do a ballpark line of beers from the 50s.
That sounds really good too. I mean, I went to college in the late 60s, but beers from the 50s would be interesting for sure.
Try the Thirsty Dog Brewery, Old Leg Humper. Well, what?
I've never heard of that.
Hopefully is that a real beer, Ronald Sutton? Go.
Ronald Sutton would never make anything up. It's not in his title.
No. So yeah, I finished that beer. I'm gonna stick with 91 rating. I think we've had as many as 11 people in here. We got 9 people viewing right now. Wow, Stout Sunday is a thing. And I always knew that, but
it's funny.
Crazy on Sundays. You do
We're
it
getting to almost a year since we started in February of 2018. So 2019, I believe. John might correct me. I'm not sure.
You got the question. What's your go-to stout, John? And John does respond by saying, it's a tough question. I buy many different ones, so I don't really have a go-to, but I buy the Dragon's Milk and Foreign Extra Stout often because of the availability.
Okay, and I can get the straight Dragon's Milk. I wish I could get the variants. I have not seen them, but I will keep looking.
This is a great comment right here. Beer does not mix well with pretentiousness. Well, let's put it this way. It shouldn't. A lot of people that take it that direction, those people are the ones I'm going to say, yeah, I'm going to walk away from them at the bar and say, yeah, have a good night.
Right, because you're not going to get into a dispute over silliness, and they can get there really fast.
Don't doubt me. I'm from Akron, Ohio. All right, so approved. But yes, definitely, beer shouldn't be mixing with pretentiousness very well. Those kind of people are, I mean, you got 3 different people, right? Or really 4 I talk about. You got only macro beer drinkers, only craft beer drinkers, and both of them look down on either or. You got people like us, sort of like us in a way, more like what I like to do, which is I just can appreciate and enjoy everything. And then primarily like beer reviewers almost. And then that 4th category is I'm just a malt liquor beer drinker that wants to drink as many ounces as I possibly can to get as messed up as I possibly can. Those are the 4 kind of people you're going to run across.
Right.
And especially 1, 2, and 4 can kind of be pretentious, a little snobbish towards other people. It's just better off, even if you don't really like macro, it's better off that you can be in that 3rd category, if you ask me, and appreciate a whole bunch of different things for a whole bunch of different reasons.
Well, I've been willing. I keep a book of all the beers I drink, and I have macros in there, but it's usually macros that are donated to me. I don't go and I'm not going to buy a 6-pack of a macro. That's all. I mean, there have been times I've bought macros in big cans because then it's just a one-time purchase. I'll try it, and sometimes they're good. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not. But I mean, I'm willing to, I like my book to be diversified. I don't want everybody to say, well, all you drink is craft beer. So it's more than that. But it's not a steady thing. I like Genesee Cream Ale, by the way, if you'd ask me, a mass marketed beer that I do like.
Now that stuff has gone to about 12 the Genesee beers. They've now gone and are advertised at $12.99 a 30-pack in my neck of the woods in Massachusetts.
That's a very good price for that beer, by the way.
That is one of the best beers at that price point. It probably, for me, it is the best beer at that price point. Now, that's comparative to like a $22.99 30-pack of Miller or of like Bud Light.
Right.
$12.99? Or $22.99. You do the math. Which one you would rather buy?
No, because I'm not claiming Genesee Cream Ale is a craft beer because it's not a mass market beer. But for what you're getting, it's much better than the generally known mass market beer.
Yeah, I would much rather drink Cream Ale than Bud Light.
So that's just how I feel about that. And actually, you do get some craft attempts at cream ales, but 6 Point has one called Sweet Action, but theirs is hoppier. So in other words, that's 40 IBUs on that cream ale, which to me, when you start getting to 40 IBUs, it's kind of like a hoppy cream ale, which is different than standard cream ale.
Or there are breweries that are putting lactose and vanilla and chocolate inside their cream ales, which that may taste pretty good, but I'm not sure necessarily that's what a cream ale actually is creamy per se.
They're almost using ingredients to change what a cream ale is.
It's more like a what do they call it? California Steam, California Common, where it's supposed to be the hybrid of lagers and ales, where ales are getting fermented at lager or are being brewed at lager type temperatures.
Right. Eric, do you want to wrap this up on?
Yeah, we're almost at the hour mark. We got 7 people watching. Remember, Ronald Sutton's from Steubenville. That brewery. He said, try a Thirsty Dog Brewery, Old Humper. He said, don't doubt me, I'm from Akron, Ohio. That's the brewery is located in Akron. There you go. And he is from Steubenville. Lastly, we got Joe Biden's dentures. You need to go back in that guy's mouth. He budgets so that he can drink good beer. It's all about his priorities and what's important to the individual.
I agree with that.
Can't disagree with that statement. So yes, we're at the hour mark. Stout Sunday. I'm going to call that one a success, even with 3 people. We got some good conversation comments.
Thank you for coming.
And he got his new job at the hopefully that 5-star hotel. He's a mixologist.
It sounds great.
Good gig right there. Woo. All right. That is Michael Komaroff. You can see him most Wednesday nights on Wildcard Wednesday on the J. Terrio Louisiana Beer Reviews channel of YouTube. I don't think I'm going to be able to join this week. We'll see where I am on that. This has been
Nathan was talking about joining, but I don't know if he will.
Yeah, Nathaniel. He hasn't joined in forever. Thank you, John. Appreciate the good vibes.
John, thanks for being here.
We'll hopefully get John back in the game on next Sunday. Again, Mike Komaroff from Brooklyn, New York. I'm in southeastern Massachusetts with Thomas Meadow 75, Massachusetts.
Thank you, Eric, for hosting.
And until next time, keep tasting those great beers. Cheers. And we'll see you soon. Let's not click end broadcast. Oh, no. Let's click end broadcast. End broadcast.